Hello and welcome into Loftside Bantr. On today's show, we're going to bring back Marina Dickey, and we're going to get some updates on all of the different seasons she's involved in, including the Rebellion, the Women's Tackle Football League, the Granite State Destroyers, the rugby club that she's a part of, and her sports photography business that she's working on. So we get all the updates from everything like that, have a great conversation with her. And then we look into a few different sports stories, including the huge argument on NFL preseason. Are they playing too many, or what are we doing? There's too many injuries and everything else like that. We're going to get into all of that and discuss that from both points of view. So we'll get you over to that countdown and get this show started.
We are on in 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello, welcome Loftsiders to Loftside Bantr. As mentioned in the opening, today's show we have Marina Dickey. We had a great conversation with her. We're going to be talking about some NFL news. We're going to be talking about some baseball. And we'll touch on some NBA comments made over the last few days as well. We'll start off with baseball since that's the sport that's really kind of getting towards the playoffs, and we're past the All-Star break, trade deadline, all those fun things. We've passed all of it. There are teams that are hitting their strides. I believe the Brewers have won 12 straight, so Milwaukee looks in great shape right now. The standings are actually quite surprising in some of the divisions, considering how many times I ranted and raved, first and foremost, about my Boston Red Sox, that are now in second place, 4.5 games behind the Blue Jays, who don't seem to lose, just like the Brewers. But they're a game and a half up on the Yankees. The Yankees are in third place. They've been in kind of a free fall mode. And again, I'm happy to see the Red Sox doing well. I think they didn't do enough at the deadline, but this is a team that was winning before the deadline, is sort of winning after the deadline. They're, kind of back and forth a little bit, but they're still in a decent shape as far as wild card is concerned. The Brewers have taken complete control of the NL Central over the Cubs. And it was one of those situations that this is when teams get hot. This is when you need your team, if you have aspirations of the postseason and the World Series and everything else like that, this is when you got to get hot. They're now 8 games up, like I mentioned, on the Cubs. It doesn't look like it's going to end close. Now, there's still plenty of baseball to be played, but that's a pretty big gap for a team that just doesn't need to lose. If you can continue to play without losing, obviously you win the series. That's all you got to do. Take 2 out of 3 in a series. Don't think you have to go undefeated the entire way, but it's pretty simple to do, especially when you're 22 games above 500 at home, and then on the road you're 10 games above 500. So it doesn't matter where they are, the Brewers are just winning. They just dominated a game against Paul Skeens, I think 2 days ago, and it didn't look good for what we would consider the best pitcher probably in the major leagues in Paul Skeens, who's absolutely wasted in that Pittsburgh clubhouse. But you're going to have to pay a small ransom to get him at any time. So the West, the NL West is looking quite interesting right now. Now, the Diamondbacks were sellers at the deadline. The 2 teams at the top of that division, the San Diego Padres, are a half game up on the Dodgers. And if you would have said at the beginning of the year the Dodgers would be in second place at all this season, we would have called you crazy. The lineup that they have, the pitching that they have, they're going through some injuries, just, again, like most other teams are. But the Padres to be able to take over first place there, I mean, that's a rivalry that probably us here on the East Coast don't understand how big it is, but it's huge. And especially with the money the Padres have tried to spend over the last few years, and then obviously all the things the Dodgers have done with getting Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto and all of those players that keep coming in and they keep deferring payments to and whatever. This is a very contentious NL West this year. we'll take a look at some of the awards that we think are kind of panning out as of right now. So about halfway through August, frontrunner for AL MVP is probably still Aaron Judge. I don't think there's really much argument except for maybe one or two people. And I would make the argument for the person I think is in second place as of right now. But Aaron Judge is batting .337, 38 home runs, 88 RBIs. Now, can you say he's the most valuable player for a team that's faltering down the stretch? Not really his fault for the injuries that are there or the lack of pitching depth or anything else like that. But he would probably still be the front runner. Kyle Raleigh, big dumper, is in second place. .245 average, 45 home runs, 98 RBIs. Now, with that, the interesting thing is you're looking at the AL West, where the Houston Astros and the Seattle Mariners are tied for first place at 67 and 53 as of this recording. So, can you really put Aaron Judge in that MVP number one spot when the team is kind of, again, like I said, they're faltering down the stretch? It's what's happening. Bobby Witt is in this conversation. Jose Ramirez for the Cleveland Guardians are probably in this conversation. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. probably somewhere at the back end of that. But those are probably some of the names that you're going to hear towards the end of the season for AL MVP. National League, it's not overly close, I think, in this one. I think Shohei Ohtani is in first place. I don't think there's anybody that can really argue that fact. Pitching-wise, he's obviously gotten back on the mound. Hasn't recorded a win or loss yet, but he's played. He started 8 games, 2.37 ERA. So, I mean, they've kind of put him back to be able to doing the dual purpose that everybody fell in love with to begin with. Now, as far as batting, we're looking at 43 home runs and 79 RBI already, and he's batting .284. Some candidates that are kind of chasing at this point, I think Pete Crow Armstrong from the Cubs, .257, 27 home runs. Again, a team that is faltering down the stretch. Your next kind of on the list are probably going to be Fernando Tatis Jr., Kyle Tucker from the Cubs, almost the Cowboys, the Cubs. Kyle Schwarber, I think Kyle Schwarber has a legitimate chance. He'll probably finish second or third. Corbin Carroll, probably back end of that, but Schwarber is the one I would keep an eye on, kind of going up that leaderboard, if you will. AL Cy Young, I think it's Tarek Skubal, 11-3, 2.35 ERA for the team that's the best in the AL, at least the Detroit Tigers. Past that, I think Garrett Crochet for the Red Sox is in the argument, 13-5, 2.48. A team, again, now that's climbing a little bit. But I think the Tigers have been the best kind of all year in the AL. Hunter Brown from the Astros. Joe Ryan's probably back there. Max Fried from the Yankees is probably back at the back end of that leaderboard as well. NL Cy Young, and this is where these awards kind of you're gonna look at different things. For the NL Cy Young, I think your leader as of now is still going to be Paul Skeens. Again, for an atrocious Pirates team. Now, the Cy Young isn't the most valuable player. You're not saying, hey, he was the most valuable player, but their team was awful or something like that. You're looking at a pitcher who is pitching in his dominance. And Paul Skeens still is doing it. Now, he's 7-9 with a 2.13 ERA. And I don't know if you can necessarily give a Cy Young to a pitcher with a losing record. Not necessarily always on him, but Christopher Sanchez, 11-3 with a 2.36 for the Phillies. That's probably your guy that's right there on his heels, if not going to win it. Zach Wheeler for the Phillies. Andrew Abbott is another guy. The Reds have a winning record, barely. But he's been pitching very well, 2.4 ERA or so. So those are kind of the guys for the NL Cy Young. Rookie of the year, Nick Kurtz, who, and I know I had mentioned it on this show, but he's batting 300, 23 home runs for the Athletics, not the Oakland Athletics, not the Vegas Athletics, just the Athletics, because they don't have a location yet. He hit 4 home runs in a game not too long ago, and everybody went crazy over that. But, I mean, he's been fairly consistent throughout the year, obviously, with his average. And, he's hit 23 home runs this year. So, I mean, he's got a good chance to be the AL Rookie of the Year. Couple other guys. Noah Cameron from the Royals. Roman Anthony, I think, is probably going to be on the list. I think Carlos Navarez for the Red Sox is also going to be on the list. I just don't think they've done enough to pass Kurtz right now. NL, Isaac Collins for the Brewers is probably the front runner. 8 home runs, 288 average, 41 RBIs. He's 28 years old, so a little bit older of a rookie, but having a decent year, has been able to fill in where they needed and everything else. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot to argue that fact. Drake Baldwin from the Braves. Brady Lord from the Nationals. I'm trying to think of guys that are in this. Chad Patrick from the Brewers, I think, has, some stuff like that. I think to keep an eye on is Willie Castro. I think he's a guy that's been playing better. He's only batting 240. Again, 28 years old, so a little bit older of a rookie. But I think he's kind of moving up the board as of right now. But unfortunately, the Cubs are not. Manager of the year, you're probably looking at John Schneider from the Blue Jays. Is most likely going to be the guy. I mean, he's got the Blue Jays in first place in a division that has the Red Sox and the Yankees, obviously. AJ Hitch is going to be on the list, obviously. National League, probably be Pat Murphy for the Brewers because they've just been playing so unbelievable. Oliver Marmol from the Cardinals will probably be on the list. Murphy won last year, so it's not out of the realm of possibility he wins it back-to-back, which is interesting. Going into the postseason for baseball, where they're going to have to compete against football, at the start of their regular season and everything else like that, it's going to be interesting to me to see what the numbers look like. Because there's some people that we're starting to get some names again that are recognizable, that are on good teams, that are making moves. I mean, again, still kind of on that outside looking in is Skeens, which is the problem with Pittsburgh right now. But, baseball went through a couple years where it was just hard to kind of pick out players, and with all the scandals they had with steroids and everything else like that, it seemed like we were getting away from knowing kind of a baseball roster. Now, there are names on these teams that are going to be in the postseason that people are going to want to see, make must-see TV. So I'm going to be interested to see what the ratings are for baseball going into the postseason. That'll be something to keep an eye on, I think. Switching over to basketball, the Boston Celtics were officially approved to be sold for $6.1 billion to Bill Chisholm, a deal that could see it raise. So he's going to get 51% of the team to start off with immediately. So you can take immediate control of the team. And then by 2028, the price could be a total valuation of $7.3 billion, which is outrageous amounts of money. Outrageous. And again, the Celtics are the franchise. Them and the Lakers, are the two franchises that really had the best evaluation for the NBA. Those are the two franchises at the top of the mountain. You can make arguments all you want about other ones. It's the Celtics and the Lakers. You want to talk about the Knicks, you want to talk about this. It's the Celtics and the Lakers. And you can fight me on that all you want. Those are the two teams at the top of the mountain when it comes to the NBA. And then another sale, Tom Dundon, D-U-N-D-U-N, Tom Dundon, we'll go with Dundon. The owner of the Carolina Hurricanes has agreed to buy the Portland Trailblazers from the estate of Paul Allen for a valuation around $4 billion. And he's going to keep them in Portland, which was a conversation with inner circles that the Portland Trailblazers being sold could mean they could move. And fortunately, at least right now, it seems like they're going to stay there. And hopefully they get some, they've made some good offseason moves. the Trailblazers. So they obviously brought back Dame Lillard. They signed Caleb Love to a two-way contract. Yang Hansen was one of their draft picks. I'm not really sure about that, but again, they've made some decent moves to kind of get better. Chauncey Billups is still the head coach there. So hopefully they get some help to be able to put together a team that can A, stay healthy, and B, compete at least a little bit in the West. The West is going to be crazy especially with the fact that the Thunder are so good and so young and have paid all of their players, and they're going to be there for a while. So we'll see what that Western Conference kind of looks like. The Nuggets aren't going anywhere. The Lakers are obviously with LeBron and everybody else is still going to say that they're there. Is LeBron still that guy? Who knows? But one of the other things that was interesting to me that came up recently was the fact that Michael Porter Jr. made a comment about sports betting. And for those of you who don't know, I mean, sports betting is one of my vices, I'm sure of many. And Michael Porter's brother was also banned from the NBA in 2024 for his role in a gambling scheme. Michael Porter said the enjoyment of the game isn't for the game anymore. It's so that the people can make money. In reality, way more people are losing money than making money. And he's probably right on that. Let's just be honest. That came from the One Night with Steiny podcast, that quote. So the thing that I find interesting is obviously gambling has become a forefront for a lot of sports. And for people that absorb as much sports as I do, or absorb, the lines and, everything else that comes along with gambling, there's a line, and I'm not going to say there's a line like you got to have a limit, you got to do this, you got to do that. You could speak to a gambler with that mentality till you're blue in the face. It has to fall upon the gambler to make those decisions. For me, and what I do is I understand my limit. I'm fortunate enough to know that. And it's not saying that I haven't gone out and I haven't bet to a point of, hey man, that really hurts this week. I've never missed a bill. I've never missed something I needed to pay for because I lost money gambling. And one of the things that I always look at is, if I'm going to watch a game to want to enjoy it, I don't touch it. I don't gamble on it, because that puts you in a different aspect. And Michael Porter Jr. also says, the enjoyment isn't for the game anymore. It's for the fact that you're trying to make money. And when it's something that I'm dealing with, or I'm looking at a college football game or whatever, I take my team out of it. I know what team I want to bet on when I'm talking about my favorite teams. I want to bet on my team. And some people don't understand that. You can't bet with your heart. You have to bet with your head. Now, I'm not, this also seems weird that Michael Porter Jr. is saying this on the heels of his brother being kicked out of the NBA. And it seems a little fishy that this is the message coming from him. It may also be the fact that he's seen what it can do to somebody close to him, like I said, his brother, and wanting to get a message out, which is fine. Again, I'm not going to go into the fact that his brother got caught, his brother got this, and he got kicked out. All this is a message from somebody who's trying to, get a message out there to save his brother, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. I'm not going to get into all that. Porter Jr. also goes on to say stuff like he could understand where players who come from nothing could have trouble resisting this. And listen, we totally understand that. There's a human element to everything, and people are going to make mistakes. It's just how it is. I mean, we've seen a couple of baseball players kind of be in the limelight for this, for things that look blatantly obvious, like they're, doing things to hit on betting lines or whatever. Athletes or people that are thinking about going pro or anything else like that, you get paid absorbent amount of money to not do this, to keep your lifestyle, to make the money that you're making, you have to resist those temptations. And it's, there's nothing that you're going to say to me when you get caught that I'm going to feel bad for you because of the money that you make. It's, you don't get to ruin a sport by telling people to bet on something and then throwing a game or whatever the case may be. And I'm not saying that's what Porter's, Jonte Porter did. I'm not saying that's what he did. I'm not going to go into all of that. What I am going to tell you is it's a temptation, just like everything else is when you get that amount of money. There are things that are going to pop up that you didn't have access to. You're going to be able to buy things that you didn't have access to. You're going to have people that want to be your friend that didn't want to be your friend before, and all this stuff. Gambling goes along with that. So to say that it's ruining the sport is on the people that bet. It's something that's there to help. I say help. It's something that's there to make money. It's a business, right? It's a business. These companies are there to make money. And if you can't understand that, then it is what it is. But these companies are there to make money. The people who do it need to know their limit, and that's on them because you can't worry about everybody else. And then if there are going to be people that gamble and only watch sports to gamble, then you're not going to get enjoyment out of it. You're not going to get enjoyment out of the fact that your team's losing or this or that, and you bet against them or you did this or you did that. Understand what your limit is. Understand that you as an athlete can't do this. But to say that it's making sports worse, I wholeheartedly disagree with you. I think it's gotten people to watch some of these games that they wouldn't normally watch because they do want to, put something on it. You have a little bit more at stake with it. Now, the way I gamble is not going to work for everybody. I'm okay taking little by little and building up a bankroll, and then, hey, maybe I make a big bet here with winnings that I have or whatever, and they work out or they don't. That's my trouble, is that I don't know when to just go, hey, I'll just take that. And you know what? It could be worse, I understand. But I also know that there are other things and other people and everything else that depend on me to not go, hey, we just don't have it. Right? And that's sports gambling in a nutshell. Again, it's not going to work for everybody. And I'm not pretending like I know. And I'm going to follow all of this by saying you need to bet responsibly. And if you can't bet responsibly, there are avenues out there to get help. If you're one of those people listening to this, I highly recommend making those phone calls. I have never had to do that. I am very fortunate. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to put a 10 spot on something, $100 on something, $20 on something. I know what I can go, hey, you know what? This is what I'm going to cut out. This is what I'm going to cut out spending on because I chose to do this. It doesn't work for everybody, I understand. But you can't say it's ruining. It's making things worse. You can't say, is it going to get worse? For players, probably. There's no way it's just going to stop from players' aspects. And again, they're all going to get caught at some point, and that's just the way it's going to go. And that's on them. But we'll move on from this, and we'll get into the interview with Marina, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about some NFL news. Hello, and welcome back to Loftside Bantr. And on today's show, we have Marina back for her fourth time. And if you were behind the scenes, you would realize I had to ask her how many times she was on the show before this. But it is her fourth time, so now it makes me look good. Marina, how are you today?
I am doing great, minus the fact that it's 90 plus here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, it was 100 at one point in my car, at least by that temperature, and it was gross. So,
yeah.
So you've been up to quite a bit, as always.
As always, yes.
And so we'll start kind of with your football career, if we will. How did that go, for one, to where we kind of at with the rebellion, and what are some things that are coming up?
So I personally had a great season. The team did not fare as well as we had hoped, but this tends to happen when you only have 13, 14 girls that show up 2 games. I played a lot of, we call it Ironman football, which is where you don't come off the field.
Uh-huh.
So my stats ended up looking great. I did have a blocked PAT up in New York in our last game, which was nice. Has served several pancakes throughout the season. I got better at defensive end, which I would complain that I was not good enough, and I would ask to switch, and my coaches were very adamant of, no, we are keeping you there because you are 150 off the ball and put a lot of pressure on a QB for your teammates to get around the other side. So personally, I had a good season. The team, not so much, but the girls that I played with, they had a good season too, even though it didn't collectively show. As far as moving forward, we are about to have our banquet for the end of the 2025 season at the end of this month, which means that OTAs for 2026 start right soon after that.
Mm-hmm. Now, what is one way that you will be able to get new people to come on? Like, what are the things that the team does and everything else like that to be able to find new players, so maybe you don't play games with 13 or 14 girls?
So actually, this past Saturday, we did a recruiting event at the Boston Roller Derby matches. So they let us set up a table. I made it look all pretty. There was candy and shirts and jerseys and buttons and stickers and everything. Uh-huh. And basically just handed out flyers to girls that we thought would enjoy the team sport. We also have a giant list of contacts that we'll be reaching out to saying, hey, like the 2026 season's coming up. You showed interest last year. You want to try again this year. Word of mouth, spreading our OTAs, doing more table and events and things like that is how we generally recruit.
What kind of, what was the record of the team? I know you said it wasn't as great as you wanted it to be. Well, what was all that kind of ending and stuff like that? The most experience I have in all this is Pop Warner football and stuff like that. And, I can remember games where we would go to Laconia and, it was cold and raining and parents didn't want kids to play and all that fun stuff. So, you played an Ironman kind of game that way as well. It's tough. It's tough to do with 13, 14 people, and the fact that you guys still go through with it and don't just call it a day and stuff like that is a testament. I truly believe that. So again, I can edit out the record, but is there hope for next year as far as being better? Are there people that have expressed coming back? I know it's a lot of turnover.
Yeah, so from the girls that I've talked to, essentially all of them are coming back. Girls are coming off injuries from this past season, so they'll be back for the 2026 season. So that's another body that we'll have. We're working on adding to our coaching staff. I've been in talks with coaches that we've had in the past coming back. Some of the NFL players that are looking to retire but don't want to give up the game. I'm like, have you ever thought about coaching women? So, we have some coaching staff additions in the works too, and I think that'll help us a lot. Just bring in more vast knowledge and be able to have more coaches for the amount of players that we'll have.
Now, with this league, what is remind people what's the time frame of when you play your games and stuff like that? When do you start? When does the season end?
For the WFA, we play games. They start usually in April, mid-April, and they'll go to about mid-June. So it's roughly 2 months. We'll start workouts and outside practices probably September. But we won't fully start practicing until like after January 1st. Kind of give people those holiday times and not be stressed out.
Mm-hmm. Is there new teams that you'd play, or is it generally going to be the same teams that you're playing? I know you said you went to New York, which is really cool.
As of right now, it's the same teams. We won't know that there's new teams until it gets further in the year, closer to the WFA has like National Tryout Day, which is in October. So we'll start seeing new teams pop up around then.
Mm-hmm. I know there's different divisions and stuff like that within the league. Is there an opportunity to maybe talk to people? I don't know if people try out for the higher divisions and either don't make it because you're saying tryouts. Is there an opportunity that maybe people that don't make it from there can come?
So we have done that in the past. When the Renegades were still a team, their owner, Molly, was very good at, if she had to cut anybody, she would send them right to us, depending on where they lived. She'd send them right to us. The other one would probably be a Division II team, probably Maine or Connecticut. If they ended up cutting anybody, they could send them over to us as well.
Okay. Now, to shift gears to look at the men's semi-pro league, the Destroyers, where are we with the Destroyers?
So we are in the middle of our season right now. Well, actually, we're coming up towards the end. We have 2 games left. We have 1 home game left on the 16th at St. Anselm's College against the Middleborough Cobras. And then our final game will be in New York against the Green Jackets.
Okay.
They are also in the highest division of the NEFL. As their first year back in this league. So we were kind of thrust upon the top division with these teams that have been dominating for years. Mm-hmm. So plus we do have a kind of rookie-ish team. So it's been kind of working out the kinks and stuff like that. But this past Saturday, they also had a game. They faced the New England Bombers, the top tier team. Going in, they were 7-0. They're now 8-0. But I watched some very magical things in that game regarding GSD. There was a lot of clicking going on in people's brains. It was starting to all mesh together. We were able to score on them a few times, things like that, which for them is highly unheard of. So it was they left with smiles on their faces, which usually after a loss you don't do.
Yeah. So how soon before the season started were you guys told that, oh, hey, you're playing in the top division? Because it seems like they just kind of, here you go.
It was probably about April-ish, maybe a month before that. But there was also supposed to be 2 more teams in that division as well that were more on our level. But one ended up folding, one ended up dropping down to a lower division, all right before the season started. So changing schedules and things like that was very hard. And essentially it was because these other 2 teams folded, we couldn't necessarily move.
Yeah. Is this something now in the semi-pro leagues and stuff like that where you kind of have all this experience? Is this something that's common? Teams are just coming and going? Because, we've seen other divisions of football with, even professionals that just come and go and can't clear checks and stuff like that.
Yeah, it does happen a lot in semi-pro. Unfortunately, people on a team think they can do it better or they can run it better, and then they find out that they can't, and it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of people and a lot of money to keep teams running. But you have established teams like GSD, the Bombers, Green Jackets. The Green Jackets actually have been around for a very long time. A shout out to their special teams coach, Sarah Pratt. her and I actually face each other in the WFA.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, her team has won, but I may or may not have gotten a good pancake on her specifically in our game. So her and I joked about running it again when we go back out there. And then teams like the Hitmen too, that are in the lower division, these are established teams who don't plan on going anywhere. It's these teams that pop up that, from these little towns essentially, that think they can do everything and realize shortly that they can't. So they end up folding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the uncertainty for me would be daunting, to say the least. And again, you're behind the scenes helping run that team and everything else like that. So, I mean, I'm sure there's different calls that come in last minute and everything else. I understand you're playing for the love of the game, and I will always appreciate the people that do those things. It's the people behind the scenes that want to say, hey, I can run this better and do that, and then all of a sudden everything gets turned upside down. I mean, it's life. Obviously, running a team, no matter what division we're talking about, is a lot of money. So,
yes, we figured it out. Essentially, to run a season between the men and women's, the average is about $20,000 a season.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much anybody that's going into that is...
Yeah, that's before sponsors, that's before fundraisers, before donations. Like, that's what you're going to have to start with.
Yeah.
And then you got to attack it from there. And then sometimes you don't even realize the little things that you need to, like, I buy Gatorade for the guys to, like, I make the powder Gatorade. That's $12 that you didn't really think to put in your budget.
Right.
So, it fluctuates, but the average to start is about $20,000.
Mm-hmm. Now, some of the other things that you do, rugby?
Rugby starts next week.
So what is all this? We're going to act like we haven't talked about this before. What is the rugby that you do?
So I play, I am a forward for the Seacoast Tugboats. We are out of Dover, New Hampshire. Again, it's a rec league, Division III. Practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We actually have a clinic this coming Sunday morning. It's over, I believe it's in Dover. But it's just an intro to rugby. Because when I started, I had no idea what I was doing. I still really don't know what I'm doing. But rugby is another great way. It's another great team sport that introduces you to a great group of people. Like the end of this month on the 30th, one of my teammates and great friends, Alexis, is getting married, and there's a handful of us ruggers going to her wedding to celebrate. So,
Nice.
It introduces you to a great group of people. It also gets you out and exercising and enjoying things.
Mm-hmm. Now, my question for you is, I've watched rugby. I base it upon movies I've seen, and then I actually, you watch them when you're out at a sports bar or whatever, because I'm a big soccer fan, so they still show rugby and all that stuff. It's a bit huge in Europe and everything else. How does a scrum start? How does that happen?
It's usually after a penalty.
Okay.
And I am the 8-man, which is the person at the very end, that lone person behind, helping push and try to navigate the scrum pile to getting the ball out. So
they start a scrum. Does the ref just throw the ball in there and whoever gets it gets it?
The ref does not throw the ball in. It's actually the team will put it in.
Gotcha.
So if it was a penalty on the other team, our fly half will put it in. It is a fight over who gets it.
Mm-hmm.
But the main objective is to have your team keep it.
Yep. Okay. Now, what skills in rugby translate to football outside of hitting people?
The main one is hitting people. The main one is definitely hitting people because in rugby, there are no pads or anything like that. You do have a selective area on the body that you can hit without being in trouble. I have been yellow carded before for hitting too high. But it forces me to tackle lower, which does translate well to football. Yep. It's a lot of cardio, which I absolutely detest, but that does also help when I'm running in football. Just awareness too, and being able to listen to things. Because usually on the football field, like, I can't hear anything except for my mother. Like, I can't, nothing. And, but in rugby, you have to listen because some of your captains and the backs behind you are yelling at you. Different things, different places to go, that they need a pod, which is three people or more to kind of catch the ball and run it. Mm-hmm. So things like that, it forces you to listen. Yeah.
Now, who are some of the teams that you're playing against in this rugby league? What other clubs?
So we will play North Shore, which is down obviously on the North Shore. We will play Portland. Actually, I have the schedule right here. Portland, Maine, South Shore, Upper Valley, Amoskeag. Amoskeag is technically an away team for us, but they are out of Manchester. So a lot of us kind of, if they need fill-in people, we'll switch back and forth. Mm-hmm. And then Saratoga is also coming to us. So that's a new team for me this year. But it looks like it's a home game, so I don't have to travel far.
If you had to choose between the two, football and rugby, what are you choosing? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot or in trouble if you have to plead the fifth.
All of my teammates from both sides know this, as I will choose football hands down any day of the week.
Mm-hmm. Is it now? So now,
but the nice thing is, both teams support whichever sport I'm playing.
That's good.
I have had football players come to rugby games to support me, and I have had rugby teammates come to my football scrimmages, practices, games to support me.
Mm-hmm. Now, a question I know I've asked you before, but we can re-go over it, is for you, why football and rugby and all these different things? Why is it something that you want to be a part of, and why is it something that you want to continue to do? And then how long do you think you can do it?
So my plan is to play until the wheels fall off. I tell this to everybody. Uh-huh. I will walk onto that field with a walker. Does not matter. I will play until I cannot. Rugby was not always the plan. I will say that. It was introduced to me after I started playing football. I'm not a flag football girly. I cannot play it. It does not click for me. So I needed something in the off season to stay in shape and work on my skills, and rugby presented itself. So that's why I play rugby. But I do find that I do like it, again, minus the running. But football has always been something that has been in my life. Growing up a fan, being a cheerleader in high school, cheering for the Epping Blue Devils that never won. And I love all of them for it. But also to kind of shape the younger generation, to show them that girls can play football too. I was told in high school that I would never play football. So to be able to play now, have the accolades that I have, and continue to play is kind of my big FU to that coach that told me I would never play.
Mm-hmm. The thing that I know you and I have kind of talked about is that, from me and my perspective and everything that I've seen since starting this and everything else, is that women's sports the cusp is there. We're about to hit that cusp. And the great thing about that is there's going to be more resources to have little girls want to do these things. And, you know,
absolutely, social media is a powerful thing too. So all the I am the TikTok queen for any team.
mm-hmm.
And just like the views that these get, or running into a little girl to be like, yeah, I play football, or wearing my jersey out, and their eyes like light up and they're like, wait, like that's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a very good feeling.
Yeah. The big thing, and I know earlier this season, and again, WNBA is definitely different. It's obviously at the forefront right now. And I know you're not a huge basketball person, and that's fine.
No.
But the WNBA is at the forefront of women's sports right now. The New York Liberty were sold at a valuation of $425 million, which is an amount that, if you would have said 5 years ago for a women's team.
Right.
And then now the minority owner for the Celtics looking like he's going to purchase the Connecticut Sun for, I believe it's $325 million. And that's not an evaluation. That is the price he's paying for the whole team.
Right. The only reason I like the Connecticut Sun is because they have a player on their team. Her name's Marina, and her and I are both crash outs for our team. So I absolutely love her for that.
But I mean, this is where we're kind of getting at. And then at the end of this season, the WNBA's TV rights expire, and they were at $60 million for I don't know how long, but they're going to probably quadruple that. And so,
right. And so the WFA just had their championship weekend. It was like the 26th area of July.
Mm-hmm.
That is, it was showcased on ESPN2, ASL, All Women's Sports Network. It went through Tubi, and it was one of the highest watched game events for that whole weekend or month. I forget what the statistics were, but every year when we showcase our championship, more and more and more people are watching.
Yeah, I mean, we're like I said, we're getting to that point where it's finally gonna tip.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have more exposure. You're gonna have, and for me, at least with you, is you're at kind of at the forefront of that with like I said, you're doing rugby, you're working with semi-pro men's teams, playing with this. It's going to be kind of cool to go, hey, I was kind of at that tipping point. And I think you're, again, you say you're going to go until the wheels fall off. I mean, there's going to be a lot more exposure, a lot more women's sports playing, and you're going to get, like I mentioned, those little girls to go, that's what I want to do. And nobody's going to be able to tell them, you can't do that. And that's kind of where we've gotten to. You also do photography.
I do.
Let's promote that while we're here.
I actually have a bunch of photos from Saturday. I have to finish editing as well. So yeah, I do trench action photography, specializing in sports. I will try to make any game that I can. I did just do 2 non-sports events, which was kind of fun. Like I said, my friend Alexis, her and her partner Allison had their bridal shower recently. I was lucky enough to be invited. I also brought my camera to kind of have fun with them, so I got to take a bunch of pictures there. It was very cute. I love both of their families. I love all of their friends and our friends that are there. And then my mom and I went to the Gear Jammers event at the Dragway back home here. And I think I took about 3,000 photos of trucks. If you know me, I have a soft spot for 18-wheeler trucks in my heart, just because that's what my grandfather did. Uh-huh. And I sent it to the group of Gear Jammers, which has all their people there, basically. And my page just got flooded with a bunch of love from them, which was very nice to see because it was outside of my norm. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I will do all of our games. I will do any game that I can, anytime that I can. And everyone knows this. I'm a little biased towards the linemen. I always make sure they get good photos. Yeah. Because a lot of photographers do not.
I mean, it's one of those things that, I think football players, especially linemen, have that syndrome where they're just, you're in a group of 5 to start off with, and then you got a helmet on and a number and a name that people may or may not, and again, you don't register statistics all that much, and people kind of go for the
which hopefully is changing. Dawkins is very close to getting that to change. But here's the thing too, statistically it's not tracked, but us linemen and our running backs, they track that stuff. One of our touchdowns this past weekend was done by Cruz Comaratus, and he said that was Hayden's touchdown. Now, Hayden is a lineman. It was his birthday on Saturday, and Hayden essentially led that whole blocking scheme for Cruz to be able to run into that end zone. So those that get what the linemen do.
Yeah, I mean, the running, the running yards and the touchdowns and everything else like that, even the quarterbacks, being able to have time to throw the ball and everything else like that, it doesn't happen without the linemen.
Absolutely not.
So they can try, but
good luck. I ended up practicing with the guys a couple weeks ago, and one of the QBs, Chris Martin, he said it very nicely at the end of practice. He said, "I'm so happy you are protecting me and not running at me."
I mean, if you're good at it, and I mean, there's something. It's simple, and I don't mean it as like a dumb thing. I mean it as simple as I need to move you out of the way so we can get to where we need to go, and there are different techniques to do it and everything else like that. I mean, I grew up. My dad was a lineman and a defensive lineman, and then oddly enough, a punter, which didn't seem to mix. But
that works a lot actually, because one of our punters is Adam Olson, and he is a defensive end, and he is a very tall, very stoic man. Mm-hmm. But that hang time he has on the punt, it's amazing.
Yeah, I always found that to be like, you were a Dad, you were a punter? But he used to stand in my front yard, and he'd, have it spin perfectly and everything else like that. So, I mean, it was all that stuff. And I sit here and I talk to you about all this stuff, and I've told you before, I'm proud of you, all the stuff you've done. I walked up the stairs to do this interview, and my knees hurt. So it's not something that I can continue to do. And, we're at a point where we're not necessarily the youngest people on the block anymore. So the fact
that I find hilarious because, again, GSD is a very young team, and I will come up, and we did it the other night at practice. We did the Young Bucks versus the OGs, mm-hmm. And it was 30 up for the OGs and then 30 under for the Young Bucks, and at least a handful of them were like, "No, Marina," they're like, "You're on our side. You're on our side," and I went, "I might look like I'm your age, but I'm not your age."
Yeah, I mean, I picked up serving while I'm doing this as kind of like a part-time thing, and even that
serving is one of those things, though. I'm like, I don't want to go back to that.
I'm doing it again, and I'm like, this is a young man's game.
I don't know why I stopped.
But I mean, it is what it is, and again, all the time that you put in for all this stuff is fantastic, and again, we want to get you on kind of your own podcast when you have time.
That is the plan. Yes, I do. I have a list of people I want to talk to. The guys that I've talked to think that it's the coolest idea because there isn't something like that around here.
Right.
I just need to finish working out a few audio kinks. Yeah,
and again, we're working on that. Not to put any pressure on you or anything else like that, but Marina and I have talked about this, and it's something that we both want to help each other out with, and we're kind of releasing this information now to the public. But being able to still stay in those roots with semi-pro and local and everything else like that is something that I think sports, especially media-wise, has kind of gotten away from. And I think with all the stuff that you do, you can talk to all the different people and stuff like that. And, I want to be here to make sure that you have a platform to do that, because again, I started this with the intention of growing it and being all this different stuff, but I don't want to lose the local stuff. And, you know, you were one of the first guests
Right.
that were on, and, you know, I think it's important that even though we idolize NFL players, NBA players, NHL, whatever, that there are people that do it just for the love of it. And
Absolutely.
there are just big gaps in covering all that.
Yeah,
So
I agree. And it is cute because we do get a lot of kids that come to like the GSD games, and I put photos up of this on the page of GSD on their Facebook page that Chris's mom, Maggie, shout out Miss Maggie, she took of all these boys. There were little kids lined up with footballs asking the guys for signatures and autographs, and you know, some of these guys had never experienced it, and it was a beautiful thing to see.
mm-hmm. Yeah, we as, and I'm gonna loop myself into it with the media of not understanding that there are people that just want to continue to play just because they want to, and that shows more than maybe some. I don't want to say professionals don't work as hard or whatever. That's definitely not the case. It's just it shows more that you're willing to do it. You know.
Yeah, they don't have to do this. They don't have to take their times, you know, during the week on a Wednesday night for 2.5 hours to practice, to you know, go play on a Saturday and spend, you know, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours at a field on a Saturday when they could be doing other things. You know, things like that. And we truly do appreciate all of that, and the families that join us on Saturdays and the friendships that we've made, you know, things like that. We just wish that more community people knew about us.
Yeah.
Because then it would be easier for us to run these things.
Right. Yeah, trying to get enough people to play and enough people to sponsor, and understanding that, hey, this is something that's here is definitely, you know, again, it to me, for the media to not spend the time to do those things, I think is a huge miss. And that's why
I do too.
I want to make sure that we're doing that.
Too. It's unfortunate too because, you know, myself and my media team for both teams, we send out emails to Union Leader, to radio stations, to WMUR, to all of these places, and nobody answers half the time.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I can get in with like WOKQ is because, shout out Jad, he's a good friend of mine. I've known him probably over a decade now, you know, so every now and then he'll slip something in for me nice at things like that. But like these local places should be highlighting us, and they're not paying attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the media and news now is all over the place, and you know, there are things that pop up of celebrities and stuff like that. And again, everybody idolizes somebody, and celebrities are celebrities for a reason. But sometimes the news that they report is just not news. And, you know, why not show, hey, here's a person that spent a 9 to 5 the day before doing this construction, whatever the case may be, and now on a Saturday for 5 to 6 hours is wanting to run into people and, you know, play football and stuff like that. So I totally
Which
agree
is
with
what
you.
a lot of us do. You know, some of us, I work a 7 to 3:30. You know, Cruz works, I think he goes in anywhere from like 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., which means he gets out anywhere from, you know, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. You know, Keith, our center, sometimes has to drive all over New England for work, and sometimes won't make practice because he's driving back from New York. So, like, right. Yeah, like, I just think that we need to focus on our local people and show them the love they deserve. Agreed.
Now, of all the things we've talked about today, how can we find information about all this currently?
Facebook, probably for all of them. Facebook.com/NHRebellion. The rugby is under Seacoast Rugby Club. Granite State is under GSD Football. The Rebellion, we're all on TikTok, we're all on Instagram. You can just search them up. If you Google that or you Google my name, you will find one of them.
Mm-hmm. And now Marina Dickey. Just so everybody has your name. Any other words of wisdom before I let you go today? Of any of these sports that you do, any of the photography that you do?
Book me for your photography needs and come see Granite State on Saturday at St. Anselm's. We are doing a red wave, which means all of our fans are wearing head to toe as much red as possible. I will be in a tutu. I promised 2 of my youngest fans that I will wear a tutu with them. So that'll be interesting.
If I remember correctly, not something that you see every day.
No. If you know me, I prefer to wear pants at all times. Pants. I'm a big pants person. So, yeah, I can't wait for that. And then the rugby clinic in Dover on Cold Springs Road on Sunday the 17th. That will kick off our rugby season.
Perfect. Marina, it's been a pleasure again, as always.
Papa, as always.
And I will make sure that we get this out sooner rather than later, so that way we can get some people hopefully there on Saturday. And then we can look at your...
you should come on Saturday, too.
I believe I'm probably working already, but I'll double check.
Terrible. I'm calling out for you.
I know. I should just do that. But, you know, the things
Do not make me call your wife.
No.
Her and I are friends on Facebook now.
I saw. I'm going to get in trouble already from her. The one things I will tell you is I've invested in a camera so I can do remote lapel mics and everything else like that. So that way for next season, I'm ready to go as soon as everything starts up, because I want to be able to do this other than just
in a loft.
Yeah, sitting in a loft and then doing it over, a FaceTime or whatever it is, Teams. So I do have that in the works, so that way we can make that
Love
work.
that.
All right. I appreciate your time again, and we will obviously have you on again. So
thanks, Papa.
You are welcome. Thank you again to Marina for her time, and please go check out all the places that she said to check out. Make sure that you're supporting any local semi-pro teams and stuff like that, going and watching the games. Again, it maybe not be something that's for everybody, but for a family event or anything else like that, it's definitely fun to go to. So please go ahead and support them as well. Now, switching over to the NFL. The reason why I wanted to talk about the NFL and kind of this preseason injuries and, oh my God, we're there's players already going down. There's, Anthony Richardson has already gone down with another injury. Jordan Love has had surgery on a finger on his hand. We've had offensive linemen go down. We've seen some up-and-comers be put on IR. And a lot of people have been saying, oh, too many preseason games. We have them competing in too many preseason games. There's 3 preseason games now. And injuries are going to happen. We are aware of this, I hope. I hope the greater majority of you that listen understand that injuries are going to happen. And if you're not, I don't know how to bring you out from under that rock, because this is football. And I'm okay with some of the changes. I grew up at a time where there was ESPN jacked up and you watched every single huge hit from the weekend, and if somebody got knocked out, it was a pride thing and stuff like that. And I understand we've come a long way with hand injuries. I never want to see anybody get hurt, lose a career, be out for a season. Fans can't see their favorite players. The teams aren't as good as they're supposed to be because of injuries. But we are aware that that's part of this. It's going to happen. And my worry with this product of the NFL is the fact that we're already at a point where there's not as many padded practices anymore. They're not doing 2-a-days anymore. They've got to spread out when they do certain types of practices. I heard Julian Edelman talking about this the other day, that it was like 12 days straight in pads when he was coming up through the NFL. And the CBA has taken a lot of that away. Players have fought for all this and everything else. But my worry is that we're not seeing the development of players like we used to year to year. And I'm worried that we're going to get a watered down product at some point in time. Like, we're going to always have high talent in the NFL. I mean, there's just too many scouts. There's too many, things and players that are coming up that have too many athletic attributes to not have a superior league to other places. But the development of players, when a team drafts a player, I'll use Drake May for an example, just because it's the easiest thing for me to do. I want to see significant development from year 1 to year 2 and from year 2 to year 3 with Drake May as the quarterback of the New England Patriots. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, right? He was a high draft pick. He has a boatload of talent, and he's now got a coaching staff around him that I feel better suits his development. No disregard to Gerard Mayo or anybody else like that. I just feel that this coaching staff is better. If we start talking about taking another preseason game away, they're going to tack it on at the end. You're not just going to take a game away. The NFL will never lose that revenue. They'll tack it on to the end of the regular season, probably make more revenue because it's a more meaningful game. And then that will be it. But now you're taking time away from these drafted kids out of college, young prospects, and everything else. Time to develop. And you're going to start seeing more mistakes. You're going to start seeing all these different things. And that's my worry. I understand the other aspect of it. Fans who want to see a team come in, once a year. The Patriots play once in Buffalo, once in the Meadowlands in New York, and once down in Miami. And if there are Patriots fans down there that want to see Drake May and want to see Kayshon Boutte and see Stephon Diggs and, Milton Williams, whoever else you want to put out on the roster, right? And one of them's hurt, it's disappointing to go to the game and not be able to see them. It's a risk you take as a fan. I mean, being part of a season ticket holder, it's, any game that I choose to go to or give tickets away or whatever the case may be, there runs the risk that a player's not going to be there. Whether it's an injury in a game, preseason game, practice, just running drills, or walking across the street. I mean, these are all things that are going to happen at some point in time. The thing that I appreciated with that was the development of your depth as the Patriot teams under Bill Belichick were all those years. You had depth. You had players willing to do these things. We're in a different generation of player. And we saw that in contract negotiations with players recently. We've seen it with the types of people that the teams are dealing with and everything else. It's a different type of player. There are more luxuries for the players than there were 20 years ago. And that's fine. The players do put their bodies on the line. The players do risk their health long term to play a game that I enjoy watching. I just had a conversation with my wife the other day where I got to meet Tony Romo, and I got a chance to say thank you to him, and he basically asked, "Thank you for what?" And I said, "Thank you for all the stuff that you did, all the stuff. I'm not even a Cowboys fan. For all the times you put your body on the line, all the times you got hurt, all the times for that, you did that, and I got to enjoy the spectacle that is the NFL and watching professional football." It was a simple gesture, and he was very appreciative of it. And I was, glad that at least, and again, he probably promptly forgot what I said to him as soon as I walked away. That's fine. But, this is what the game is. This is why they get paid a lot of money. This is why they do all these things. And again, I'm just a guy who has an opinion on this. But for people to keep saying we need to make sure that they're healthy and not do this, and we can't have hits above the shoulder pads. We can't have hits below the waist. We can't do this. We can't sack the quarterback like this. We can't do that. And again, I don't want major injuries. I don't ever want to see someone have a major injury. It, however, is part of the game. And I'm not saying the money they get paid excuses that. What I'm saying is you have to take that as part of the reality. And they've done amazing things with helmets to keep concussions away. I don't have the statistics in front of me of what concussions were over the last few years. What I can tell you is I've seen a lot more knee injuries, ACL, MCL, whatever, ankle injuries, and stuff like that. That I'm not saying we need to go through all this research and stuff like that, but those seem to be the more likely ones that you're going to get these days, rather than a concussion. You're not going to be sent right back out there anymore. The thing that I think that we forget is how many people had to do it with none of these rules in place for so long. Obviously, we had to get technology up and understand all these different injuries and stuff like that. But how many players went through it and didn't, are we preparing them for all these things, and it's just not, it's just because we're all knowledgeable of it now. We see it more often. But how many guys still went out there and did all this different stuff? And I'm not, again, I don't want a million concussions a year. I don't want people to get CTE. I don't want people to get any of that. Not for my entertainment anyway. I know I'll always watch the NFL, no matter what changes they make, unless it just becomes two-hand touch, and then it's something I don't know if I can handle. But again, I don't think we're going to ever get to that level. But for the people that want to keep cutting out things to keep people healthy, it's not how it works. It shouldn't be how it works. Preseason games are in place so the younger players can develop and learn and figure out, hey, this is what works, this is what doesn't work, against somebody that's not on a practice field, and they can run the same play again, and you know what's coming. You're playing against another team, you're practicing against another team, and you're seeing different looks. You're using that to your advantage to learn, develop, and everything else. If you start taking those things away, you're going to get you're going to have development issues with players. I believe that wholeheartedly. And we just need to understand that. They have done a great job at preventing all these added on practices, all these extra pads on. They do a lot more walkthroughs. The teams are very preventative of hitting each other and everything else like that. But now you're losing technique on tackling. You're losing everything else like that. And for those who don't believe that, you watch the product and how many missed tackles there are. You're not doing the same things that they were 10, 15 years ago to learn this is how you wrap up somebody. This is where you tackle them. Oh, you got to be careful when they're coming like this, or you throw the ball. You got to be careful where you hit them. You got to think of this. It's all about what somebody sees from one end to the other. A hit on somebody is illegal in somebody's mind where it's not illegal somewhere else. And you're going to have the argument at week in and week out. No matter what game you're watching, there's going to be a play where you're going, well, that should have been a penalty, or this should have been this, or this should have been that. I don't want to see players not be able to get to the level that we've seen some of the greats at because they're not getting the time to learn and develop. So let's stop talking about taking practice time away to prevent injuries. Well, if we do this, we'll cut down on injuries. No, we got to keep the same kind of schedule we're at now. I don't want to see it cut down anymore. I don't want to see one less preseason game. Sure, yeah, they're going to add a regular season game. It's going to mean more, like I said, but I like the opportunity to see the people that may not make the team, but I want to see if they have something they can make this team better. I like the practice squad idea. I like that they expanded that. I like that they have extra people that they can bring in, to grow the game globally. They're going to bring in players that are roster exemptions because they've played in other countries or they're from other countries. It's a cool thing to include. But the development of those players, if you're not giving them the opportunity to do that, they're never going to make the team. The players that are undrafted free agents are just going to be cut at the end of it, and they're going to be like, oh, thanks for you being a tackling dummy for the last 3 weeks, month, whatever it is. So let's pump the brakes. I understand injuries suck. I understand that not being able to see players and your team is no longer in contention because their quarterback goes down for the year or whatever. I'm going to give you the same mantra that the Patriots did all those years that they were winning. Next man up. Learn the position. And I get that people somehow, will have some athletic ability that is not as good as others. They have physical limitations, size-wise, whatever. But that's no excuse to keep cutting these things out. You need to give these professionals this time. And again, if they're going to keep fighting for less and less, I mean, that's when we got to step in and go, this is not, hey, you can't be practicing less. This is what it is. This is what a professional does and whatnot. So again, that's my rant on preseason injuries and everything that's going to happen. I hear most of it as, this team would be better if they didn't have injuries. But you did. You had injuries. And you couldn't overcome that. That's, again, top to bottom roster development. 101. But, again, that's just my rant on that. We're going to be doing some different things coming up with Loftside Bantr, including expanding who we go to interview and everything else like that. Because obviously sports doesn't just cover just the games themselves. I'm looking to be able to talk to colleges and coaches and players like that and everything else that goes along with sports, whether it's talking to trainers and people like that can talk about all different types of training that goes into becoming professional athletes or working in the semi-pro leagues or playing in the semi-pro leagues and stuff like that. So we're going to be looking to do stuff like that. You may hear some different people come on, which I think is a great opportunity to explore more than just the game itself. And so I appreciate all the listeners. I appreciate the support. We got over 1,000 listens on Podbean relatively quickly, which was fantastic. So thank you for that. Again, Loftside Bantr, wherever you can kind of search for podcasts. I know we're on Podbean, Apple, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all those fun places. So anywhere you can search for it. Again, you just Google Loftside Bantr. That's Loftside Bantr. And you'll find us, both the website, email. I said at the beginning of the show, I hope you guys have a good morning, night, afternoon, wherever we are. Have a great one, and we'll see you on the next show.